So today we're going to talk about a really fascinating idea called the walk-in. It's this concept that argues there's a real art to getting out into the wild and truly seeing it, and that, well, most of us are kind of getting it wrong.
And that brings us to this question, one we probably don't even think to ask ourselves. We find a beautiful scenic viewpoint, right? We pull the car over, get out, and we expect to just instantly connect with nature. But the whole idea we're digging into today completely challenges that assumption.
And this quote right here, this is the heart of it all. The real journey, it doesn't begin when you turn off the engine. Nope, it begins when your feet start moving. It suggests that to really get it, you need to go through a process, a transition.
Which brings us to the art of walking in. The core idea here is that if you rush this process, you don't actually leave your world behind. You just end up carrying all the noise and distraction of the city with you. And the wild? It stays closed off.
So what is the walk-in exactly? It's not just the commute to get to the good part. It is the good part. It's the whole journey of shedding our modern selves so that when we do arrive, we're actually ready to listen. Now, this whole journey unfolds in 5 distinct stages, and this is basically going to be our roadmap. We'll start with all that initial mental noise, what's called the clatter, and we'll follow this path all the way to the deep silence of the zero state.
Okay, so we begin with a mind just full of noise. This covers the first 2 stages, where the biggest obstacle you're facing isn't the steepness of the trail, but all the mental baggage you're carrying along with you.
So you've just stepped away from your car. You're on the trail. This first phase is the clatter. And you know this feeling. It's when you're physically standing in nature, but in your head, you're still back at the office or stuck in traffic.
And these thoughts, they're just so relatable. You're worrying about your gear, you're replaying some conversation you had, you're running through your to-do list. The source describes this perfectly. You are a ghost in the landscape. You're moving through it, but you're not actually there.
Okay, so you keep walking. That initial chatter in your head starts to fade a little bit, but it gets replaced by something else entirely. This next stage is called the rehearsal, and this is where your ego starts trying to direct the whole show.
And this really highlights the main conflict of this stage. Are you a hunter or a witness? In the rehearsal, you're the hunter. You're actively searching, hunting for that perfect shot, trying to bend the landscape to your will. The goal, though, is to shift your mindset and become a witness, to just be a quiet guest and wait for the land to speak to you.
And that brings us to what might be the most crucial part of this entire journey, the resistance threshold. This is the barrier. It's physical, it's mental, and you have to break through it. The source calls this the resistance, and it often hits around that 3rd mile. This is when the physical effort really kicks in. Your legs are aching, the path gets steep, and that romantic idea of a walk in the woods just slams into the hard reality of a demanding landscape.
And this is the voice you'll hear in your head. That's the resistance talking. It's your own mind trying to get you to just stop, to settle. This is that critical point where most people just decide they've had enough and turn back. But pushing past this, that's where the magic really begins.
Because this is what happens when you push through that wall. A really profound shift starts to take place. You stop being just a visitor, and you actually start becoming part of the place itself.
So this is the first part of that change. All that effort you were putting in, hunting for a view, it just starts to fall away. The separation between you over here and the landscape over there, it all starts to blur.
And here is the payoff. You move into a state called the thinning. That sense of I, your ego, it starts to dissolve. You're no longer an outsider looking in. Your perspective completely flips, and you begin to see from within the landscape. And your senses, they finally sharpen.
In this state, you start perceiving things you were totally blind to during the clatter. You begin to notice what the source calls the language of the eon, the deep, slow story that's told in weathered rock and ancient locan. You're finally reading the signs of the land. And all of this, it leads to the final destination of the walk-in. And it's not a physical place on a map. It's a state of being, one that can leave a permanent mark on you. The zero state. This is the ultimate goal. It's a feeling of total negligibility. And I mean that in the absolute best way possible. You realize just how small you are, how insignificant. And in that moment, you stop being an intruder. You are simply there to witness. And this is what you're witnessing. Not just a pretty view, but a process that has been unfolding for geological time. The source calls this acromatic truth.
It's like seeing the world stripped down to its eternal, essential bones.
And after you reach this state, the walk back, it's completely different. You're not the same person who started out. You carry that profound silence, the weight of the silence, back out with you, and it becomes a part of who you are.
This quote just gets right to the heart of the whole thing. In a world that is obsessed with making your mark and being seen, maybe the greatest skill is learning how to just disappear, how to become truly negligible and just listen.
So I'll just leave you with this question from the source to think about. It's not about how far you walked or what you saw. It's about what you shed along the way. When was the last time you walked long enough to simply become nobody at all?